change of chairman for quite obvious reason, as our Mr. Chair is going to present the next presentation. So may I introduce again Yuri Montanholi, professor at Dalhousie University, and he's going to present something about biological characterization of the estrous cycle in lactating Holstein cows.
Thank you. Yes, I'm happy to do some stuff in there, even though my main area is beef. So I always start with me visiting a friend in Australia. That's Bill Thompson. You might not know him, but certainly you heard about East Breed and Cedar. And if that product it is in the market today, that's all thanks to him. His company is the largest buyer of progesterone on earth. They buy like truckloads of progesterone for doing that. And when I visited him one time, it was really interesting doing like estrous detections and like doing something different for what people have been promoting in the market. And then I told him, well, since I love biology and physiology, so then I can do some of the mapping and I learned some stuff and perhaps can develop some technology for you. And then we move on. I contacted some dairy companies in Canada for doing that connection. Worked together with his company in New Zealand. And of course, then you go to the government and get some more funding so it can really pay the bill. So this is what's happening with dairy. Over time, as you increase productivity, you have been increasing also the calf interval, which is not good. And that's like a global trend. So there's something related to fertility. And of course, that fertility is pretty complex. However, there's some strong association with productivity. So as we have this example here from this paper, we have the high production group and the average production group. And when they look at that, they observe that the high production group, they took longer to get in estrus. They had a lot of silent estrus that you cannot detect. And also have more days to conception. And one of the problems is that you might be failing detecting estrus. Another thing that has been happening in dairy production is that herd size it is increasing and the number of farms are decreasing. So basically, the producers no longer calling their have those cute little names that they have for cows, but really they all get a year tag with 20 digits, and like there's no more too much interaction with them to see the response, to see the signs of estrus that they might be showing. So the biological characterization that we did was in a few different ways. We checked heart rate, vulva morphometry, body surface temperature, and also milk composition. I have data for fecal cortisol and progesterone, fecal metabolites. Those I will still work on that. The same for study and main time. When we look to body surface, we did that through infrared imaging and also some other contact temperature device. And when it comes to milk composition, we did the classical analysis plus freezing point, fat acids profile, cortisol, and progesterone. Progesterone is really important in this context because it was our marker for estrus. So you could tell that the cow was actually in estrus or non-estrus thanks to the milk progesterone that you measure. So this is some of the scenario that we work. We're dealing with Holstein cows, doing lactation in Canada, a ration that's very typical in Canada, about like a lot of corn silage with straw in it. Then on top we have the performance traits, which I think is around the average or above the average to most of the high-producing animals. And also we check, we did this like late to the, let's say summer, early fall in Canada, and that was our temperature and humidity index, which in that we could observe that 13% of the time heifers are above a THI of 71, which would be considered a heat stress condition. So a little more on our experimental design. We work in groups of 6 cows per time that we're synchronizing and aiming that at least 4 of them would get in estrus. So in that way we managed to do 6 times 4, so we had 24 cows in estrus that could be monitored. This is how we did our synchronization, quite standard protocol. Of course, we use cedar, and then day before removing the cedar, we did the progesterone, and then just keep eye on the cows until they go a bit crazy. And then this is our experimental timeline. Is really a summary here. that shows all the different strains of information that you collect and our routine of collection. So basically, infrared image, you need handheld images AM and PM every day. And then when we did the automated, infrared was continuously every 5 minutes. Surface temperature was continuous. Heart rate was from day 19 to day 24 of the cycle. And then milk composition, biometrics did both AM and PM. So I started with some determinations here. Progesterone and cortisol, we did that with rate assays. And then when it comes to milk analysis, the company that was helping us, they have all those magic robots and stuff that can do all those assessments for us. And also, that company was able to generate the mid-infrared spectrum. And myself as a beef researcher, I had no idea what to do with that. So then I started searching around and I found this group of talented people in Belgium that has been doing a lot of work on that. And then I said, I want to go to EAAP and present this. And then they took that data and converted to something that could work on that. So that's very awesome, very thankful that they helped on that. So basically that's what happened. Like instead of me just come here and talk about fat, we have the full profile of fat. So we had all those different categories and classes of fatty acids. Yeah, and this is like how we measure body surface temperature. So at that time I had a very ingenious student that he made that a year tag, like with some duct tape and silicone glue and stuff, so that became our sensor to put in the ear. And that has a little button that records temperature like every 1 minute. And also we put a second one on the neck. So the idea was, okay, you do a body extremity, that's the ear, and then the neck, that's the core body location. And that's how our routine for the infrared image. So we took quite a few pictures by hand around the animal, and that's the setup for the automated cameras. These are our infrared traits. So some of them, we have the circle there is like our circle that you lead on right on the flank, and then the square on the vulva, and then the square on the foot of the animal. And for both, we look at maximum and average temperatures. And another thing that we did, this has to do with morphometry. So that point there is a Canadian quarter, and then if you see that arrow is pointing to a Canadian quarter attached to a duct tape and attached to the cow. And that really became the scale for us. So then it could be taking pictures of the cow, and we know that the size of the quarter doesn't change. So that could be our scale on every picture. And through that, we could be normalizing our images and actually do those measurements there. That's actually the width of the vulva, the widest width of the vulva. Okay, so we also did heart rate on that. We used the polarity climb that we developed some special belt, adapted belt to do that in cows. And the stats here is quite simple. Basically, during the experiment, most of the cows had a chance to be in estrus twice, so early and later on the sampling of 25-day sampling. So you're basically comparing how all those parameters change if the cows was in estrus or non-estrus. So we start with the estrus. Because there's a lactating cows, there's a threshold of 2.4 nanograms per ml to be considered that the cow is in estrus. And we did that AM and PM, so that's why we have the two curves here. And jump to one of the first results that we have is about cortisol. And it was interesting to observe that cortisol, when we check that for the morning sampling, so between compared non-estrus to estrus, there was no difference. However, when you look in the evening, there was a difference with the animals in estrus displaying higher levels of milk cortisol. And that probably has to do that in the evening, in that case, those animals are like face the whole phytogenic effect of being in estrus plus the warmer temperatures that you have in the evening, in the afternoon. So that could be an explanation of why it could be causing stress in that. If you don't believe me, there's a paper from 1972 that shows the same thing, where there is like a spike on cortisol when the cow gets in estrus. Okay, so this is like the classical milk composition and freezing point. We found some trends and some more significant results. So since that the cows, when they are in estrus, they have a decrease in somatic cell count, a decrease in freezing point, and also in protein. So this is interesting because they might end up becoming some biomarkers at some point. And then when it comes to the mid-infrared spectrum for fatty acids, that was really Nice to see that, because I asked people to help me, and then I got a lot of interesting results here. There's quite a few of those that I can really tell you if the animal is in estrus or not. So it's quite nice to see that. And when it comes to body surface temperature, I just include one more phase of the estrus cycle, that is the pro-estrus. That's just the 24 hours or so before, and I'll explain why in a second here. Was kind of nice to see that during the estrus, the cows are kind of in intermediate temperature. When it comes in pro-estrus, the temperature goes really down, and then when it comes this, go higher than everything else. So it's kind of nice when you're working in a situation that you have a pattern that's like this, and then down and then up, because it makes it way easier to make a proxy or a marker for it. And also there are some other, this paper celebrating 40 years old that they found some similar pattern. And again, different technologies, okay? Like here you're trying to not do that in one cow to show that, but do that in a way that you can do in 1,000 cows. Okay, when it comes to infrared imaging, we also observed here that during the estrus, the cows seems to be a bit warmer. And just for your reference, there's a paper from 1985 that is showing that we can do some work with infrared on that for detecting estrus. Okay, and move morphometry, I think that this is my most original information that I generated the last few years. There is not much on that. And it's nice to see that what happens to the width of the vulva labia. It works exactly the other way around that you see for progesterone. So when the cow genesis, there's really increases in dimension, and that probably can be assessed in that way. And just to illustrate here, this other study, they also use infrared image, but not for the sake of temperature, but for the sake of assessing a shape in the animal. And that's an interesting use of infrared, because everybody just think about temperature, but it's a very interesting device for checking shapes. Okay, and when it comes to heart rate, not so surprising. When they're in love, their heart beats a bit faster. And it's kind of nice to see that. This is overnight from midnight to 5 in the morning. There was a significant difference on that as well. Okay, so just a few remarks that I have about this study. We see that there's quite a few possibilities for inline milk analysis, and that's like what a company like that is really into. Like they have quite a few devices that they use inline. So as you milk the animal, you get a subsample and tell somatic cell count and other measurements. So it's very nice that some of those things you might be able to implement to do inline. And also, I really like the idea of the body surface devices, even more than the infrared, because it's quite simple to do that, and it can be telling a lot. And more important than anything else here is that we have been working on technologies that are based on multi-proxies, because estrus is a very complex trait. So if you try to access estrus in 5 different manners at the same time, your chances of picking the estrus is much higher. And another side of the coin, you also want to be having technologies that not only do estrus, but really do health, do other traits. So that's like there is a need for combos, like people want to buy combos to use at their farms. Thanks to all these funding sources, and special thanks to all this group here, everybody here at that moment, except me, your undergrad students. They put around 3,000 hours of work on this, and that was a summer course. So.
Thank you. So this presentation is open for questions.
Nicolas Beder from EAAP. You said you could use the mRNA signal from milk to predict the estrus time, but what about the prediction repeatability and those kind of parameters? Because you said that was associated with the time of estrus, but do you have any thought or any proof that it works the other way around, like it is a good predictor of estrus?
Yeah. Well, estrus is really a categorical situation. Either you are in estrus or you're not in estrus, right? And like what we have been doing here is really like a big shot in different biological phenomena. And like this is not ready for marketing. You need a lot of validation that. Let's say we did the lead infrared for the fatty acids. Like I don't think that you can do an inline milk infrared analysis, But let's say if you are able to pick one or two of those fatty acids like properly in line, then you're right doing the trick. So there's more work, more development that still need to do.
Any other question? Yeah.
Frank van Eerenburg from the Netherlands. Did you check for body temperature with that little thermometer that you had mounted on the ear?
Yeah.
You didn't put any error bars on your graph.
Yeah, just to give it clear. But
how big are the error bars?
Like there's a significant difference in there, so is small enough to be significant. I need to go back to that and send that to you. I just don't remember exactly, but I can put the error bars and share that with you, no problem.
Because in my experience, there is a lot of variation.
Yeah.
Throughout the cycle, there is a lot of variation. And the difference is not that big. When you present it like this, it looks like there is a significant difference. But how will it be in terms of sensitivity and specificity?
And one thing that we did was to include THI as a covariate in the model, and that was highly significant variable. So that also helps to accommodate that.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. One quick last question? If not, then thanks again, Yuri.
Okay.